In this video, we talk about excuses, why people make excuses, the consequences of living a life of excuses, and how we can eliminate excuses from our lives. Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Judy Owiti, and I help young people make good choices that lead to their best life. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Now, taking responsibility for our lives is so crucial. If done, it can lead us to paths of greatness. If not done, our lives can actually be shipwrecked. And so the question is, what can we do in order to step up and take responsibility for our lives? So I'll be addressing this topic in two videos. This is the first of the two. So this week you're talking about stopping the excuses, and next week I'll be talking about stopping the blame game. So make sure that you look out for that video next week. Taking responsibility means acknowledging the role that you play in your own life. It's knowing that you're in charge of your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your words. It's knowing that those actions that you take actually have consequences and that you bear the consequences of your actions. That's taking responsibility. And one of the ways we fail to take responsibility is when we give excuses. Now, what's an excuse? An excuse is a reason, an explanation that you have given yourself, an explanation about why you're doing something or why you're not doing something. It's an invented reason that is in your head about yourself, about others, about circumstances in your life. And here's the thing about excuses, is that we're not always conscious of them. We're not always aware of them. We have said them over and over again in our heads that they have become real. They have become legitimate to us. So why do people make excuses? Well, there are many reasons why people make excuses, but we'll look at a few. So the first one is fear. People make excuses because of fear. It could be fear of failure. You don't want to try out something because you're afraid that you will fail. Fear of change. Now this is a big one, because human beings by nature, we don't like change. We want things to remain the same, constant. But then change is the constant thing. It's always changing. Things are always changing. And so we have a hard time. Some of us have a hard time adjusting to change. So for example, like COVID-19 has happened. A lot of things have changed. The way we do family has changed. Our workplaces have changed. The way we do school, everything has changed. And so how do you then keep up with the changes? Most of us are making excuses because we don't want to change. We don't want to change. We just want things to remain the same. Fear of rejection. You don't want to make friends with people because you fear that they will reject you. So what do? You say things like, I don't have time for people. I'm too busy. Or maybe you've reached that appropriate age of dating and you've seen this girl that you like and you're afraid to ask her out because you fear that she will reject you. Fear of embarrassment. So you don't want to do something because you fear you'll be embarrassed. So for example, you don't want to speak in public because you fear you'll be embarrassed. And the excuse you give is you're an introvert. So you say, I'm an introvert. I don't speak in public. I am an introvert. So public speaking is not something that came naturally for me. And I had to overcome that. My passion had to be greater than the fear of embarrassment. The second reason why people make excuses is indiscipline. You just don't want to do what is required of you. You just don't want to be bothered. So you are rude. You're talking to people rudely. And when you're confronted, you say something like, I'm just like that. Deal with it. I'm just like that. But the truth is you're just angry and you're misbehaving. And you need to look at why you are angry. You need to work on yourself. Another thing under indiscipline is that most of the young people have a lot of time on their hands because of quarantine and because institutions of learning are closed. I know not many of you have online classes. You have a lot of time on your hands, but most of you are wasting it. A lot of screen time, watching TV, on social media, just wasting. Some of you are engaging in reckless behavior. The things that I have seen happening in my neighborhood, young people just wasting their lives away. And the excuse that is being given is we're in quarantine. The third reason, feelings of inadequacy. So you say something like, I'm too short. I will not join the basketball team. There are a lot of short people that play professional basketball and they're very successful. Or you say something like, I don't have money, so I will not apply for that online course. Well, have you tried a scholarship? Sometimes we even make excuses for people. So you know you have these toxic friends that you hang out with, and you know that they're leading you down a wrong path. From the time you started walking around and hanging out with them, you are smoking weed, you're drinking, you're taking drugs, you are engaging in sexual immorality, and you just become reckless. And when you're confronted, you just say, oh, these are good friends. Or you're in an abusive relationship. You know that this guy is abusing you. And yet, when you're confronted, you say something like, oh, you don't know him like I know him. He's a good person. And then before you know it, your life is destroyed because you made excuses for other people. What are the consequences of making excuses? We're going to look at 3 consequences. And the first one is that excuses lead to disobedience. Disobedience to God, disobedience to our parents, our teachers, bosses. And one of the people that I want us to look at that made a lot of excuses from the Bible is Moses. We find this story in Exodus chapter 3 and 4. God is getting ready to deliver his people from slavery, 400 years slavery in Egypt. And he picks Moses as the man for the job. Moses doesn't think so. He doesn't think that he's qualified, that he's good enough. And so we see him giving a lot of excuses to God of why he should not go. So here are the excuses that Moses gives God. And see if you can relate to these excuses. So the first one is, who am I that he should send me? In other words, I'm inadequate. I don't have the ability. And God assures him that I will be with you, but that's not enough. The second excuse, he says, but who shall I tell them sent me? In other words, I don't have enough information. And God assures him and says, tell them I am. That was not enough. He goes to the third excuse. What if they don't believe me? In other words, he's saying, people will not take me seriously. And God goes ahead to perform some powerful signs and basically gives him the power to perform miracles and says, you know what, if you show them these signs, they will believe you. Then he says, I am not eloquent. I am slow of speech. In other words, I don't have a gift in communication. I'm not a good public speaker. And God tells him and assures him, don't worry, I'm going to put words in your mouth. I will tell you what to say. But Moses is not having it. So finally, Moses runs out of excuses. And he says what was really on his mind. He says, I'm not going. Send somebody else. Disobedience. Excuses can lead to disobedience. And so we see God angry at him. What God eventually does is pick Aaron to be his spokesman and says, I will tell you what to say and you will tell Aaron what to say. But this shows me that God is not pleased with me when I make excuses. That He is not happy with me when I make excuses. So it's very easy to move from excuses to disobedience. The second consequence to making excuses is that you remain stagnant. You don't grow, you settle. You're just stuck in your comfort zone. The third consequence of making excuses is that you will not fulfill your dreams. Excuses actually stop us from reaching our goals and from fulfilling the God-given dreams that God has given us. Imagine coming to the end of your life and then looking back with regrets because you made a lot of excuses and you never fulfill the dreams that God gave you. No matter how truthful your excuses are, they don't add value to you. They just slow you down. So finally, how can you eliminate excuses from your life? The first thing is ask yourself, where am I going? Just take a pause, sit down, take a notebook and write, where are you going? What are you hoping to achieve? What are your goals? For example, if you're in high school, what marks are you looking forward to getting? If you're in college, what kind of a degree are you looking forward to getting? If it's looking for a job, what kind of a job are you dreaming about getting? Because when we have something to live for, it energizes us and we become motivated. Number 2, identify the areas in your life where you feel stuck. And those are probably the areas where you've been making excuses. So for example, is it a bad behavior that you've been excusing? Is it a bad relationship, a toxic relationship that you need to break off? Is it a conflict with a family member that you need to apologize for, or maybe you need to ask for forgiveness? Is it your education that you need to get control of? Write those things down. And the last one is take action today. Just do it. Cut back on that screen time. Start an online class. Learn a new skill. There are a lot of resources online. Do something with your life. Make peace with a loved one. Break off that toxic relationship. Just do something useful and productive with your life. Do not waste your life. Now, I know it's not easy, but I want you to know that you can depend on God because our sufficiency is in God. 2 Timothy 1:7 tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. So you have power in you to be able to fulfill the dreams that God has given you. So don't give up, don't waste your time. God expects you to actually be productive, even in this season. So cut the excuses, Take responsibility for your life and make a change. Here's a question for you. What's the one change that you're going to make today? Please comment below and let's have a conversation. That's all for today. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.